In our church services on Sunday morning, we're asking ourselves, how do we walk uphill and deal with the different adversities that come into our lives as we live in this world? In our last video, we asked the question, where is God when it hurts? Today, I'd like to start a series of videos answering the question, why do we suffer? What are some of the reasons why God allows these things to come into our lives? Today, I'd like to look at two. I think the first reason that allows suffering to come into our lives is really a non-answer. I would say it's unknown. We just don't know. We do not know the perfect mind of God. Theologians question with that ultimate question, why did God, when he created the heavens and the earth, allow sin to invade his creation? I don't have an answer to that question. For some reason, in God's will, in God's purposes, for the purpose of his glory, he knows something that we don't know. And maybe one day when we get to heaven, we will know. When we get to heaven, we're told by the Apostle John that we will know just as Jesus Christ knows. And therefore, the mind of God will be part of our creation, and we'll have the understanding of knowing and the comfort of knowing why he allowed this to happen. The greatest comfort for me, though, when I go through suffering, is to realize that even suffering touched Christ himself, that he allowed evil in this world to put the very Son of God on the cross to die for the sin of the world. And whenever you're going through dark moments, remember that even though you don't have all the answers, you do know who does, and trust him with the unknown as you try to discover what you don't understand. A second reason I think we suffer is because we live in what Francis Schaeffer referred to as an abnormal world. We live in a world that's been cursed. We live in a world that's been broken. In Genesis chapter 2, God told Adam and Eve, he says, you can eat of all the trees in the garden, but don't eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, because the day you eat of that tree, you will surely die. And ever since that day, curse has been put upon the earth. It's touched woman, it's touched man, it's touched even creation. God did never intend for this world to have cancers. He didn't intend for drunk drivers to snuff out lives. He didn't intend for bitterness and chaos and cheaters and abuse to come into this world. But yet we brought that on ourselves by eating of the fruit, by our daily sin, and the curse is here. And so as you live in this world that is abnormal, it's not the normal world that God created, that abnormality is going to cause you and those you love to suffer. Years ago, when I started my ministry, I had a dear mother in my church who came down with cancer at the age of 27. She had a little toddler at home, a newborn, and I would go visit her, and one day when I was there, she said, can I ask you some hard questions? And I said, sure. She says, why did God give cancer to me? I didn't have the answer. I told her only God knows those things. But I said, we live in a world that's broken. It's cursed. And sometimes those cancers are going to touch other people, and sometimes they're going to touch us. And this time it touched your life. That seemed to help her. And she started asking, instead of why me, she started asking, why not me? And she realized that if there's a God in heaven who has died on the cross for her sins, he can help her to get through the impact of the curse on her life. My friends, we live in a world that's broken, but we have a God in heaven who one day will make it all whole. Until that day, let's accept him. Let's trust his word and allow him to comfort us. One of my favorite stories in the Bible is of Jesus welcoming the children like he wants to welcome you and me in tough times. He invites the children to sit on his lap. He puts his hands on them and touches them and blesses them. And when you walk through those dark valleys, just jump up into his lap. Open his word. Allow him to touch you and to bless you and to sense his wonderful presence.